Call the meeting to order. Would everyone please stand and join us as we say the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Katie will not be with us this evening. And we're in competition with the coronation, which starts at 7 o'clock. So we'll do our best to stay on task here. Does anyone have anything to add? Jeff, do you have anything to add to the agenda?
We needed to add approval for the Ed Foundation members, was that? Or am I missing something? What was it? Did I read that text wrong?
Are you talking about like a new member? Is that what you're thinking?
Yes, or was there,
Not as far as I know.
Don't
where,
recall.
was that in? Maybe I misread that. So we don't need to add any,
Not that I am aware of. If we need to, we can do it on the next meeting. I
Okay.
wasn't aware of it.
I haven't heard of it.
I'd say I haven't heard of any.
Okay,
that must have
That
been
was- I mean, it
Joe's
happened
email that I
previously.
got today. Oh, okay,
Last year, Jeff.
we'll,
never mind then, sorry.
since we have no additions or deletions to the agenda, I would look for a motion to approve the agenda as shown.
I'll make a motion.
Jolene on the motion.
Second.
Second by Luke. You won that. Any other discussion? All in favor of the approval of the agenda, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That is carried. Scheduled presenters, we have a Zoom presentation by Darren Strossel. Oh,
Yes, he is, Darren is online
Okay.
right now, and so I'm gonna introduce Darren. He is the executive secretary of MREA. We're getting bad feedback here, sorry. And so I'm gonna let Darren go ahead with the presentation on MREA, and then we can talk after that unless we have questions. Go ahead, Darren.
Okay, I'm on mute. Thank you for allowing me to be part of your meeting, and for you as school board members, I want to thank you for your service. It's a really wonderful thing to be serving the community and doing the work of a school board and working with your community and your staff to provide education for students. So I'll start with just a short little introduction about myself. I'll just let you know that I actually was a rural student growing up. Parents grew up on a dairy farm in the northeast corner of Iowa, and then attended the University of Minnesota for agricultural education. And from there, worked with Cargill, and then taught agricultural education in southeast Minnesota. And then from there, worked as a athletic activities coordinator, high school principal, and then superintendent. 10 years as superintendent, and then a college dean and an academic vice president of academic affairs at a technical college. So my roots are absolutely rural. I have a lot of pride in being from rural areas, and we've raised 4 children in rural Minnesota. So that's sort of my connection as a rural educator and a believer in public education in our great state of Minnesota. So with that, I will just share a few things. I know that you have a lot on your agenda this evening. I want to draw some highlights for MREA and just be able to answer questions if you have some of those as well. So with the first one, I'll start to share my screen, and I think it should work that way for us. And hopefully you see the flyer, correct? Wonderful. So Minnesota Rural Education Association. MREA is the only organization that advocates exclusively for greater Minnesota education. And that's one of the things that's unique about MREA, is that we are rural to our roots. And many other organizations, ed organizations in the state, such as Minnesota School Boards Association, has a school member focus. Minnesota Association of School Administrators has an administrative focus. Minnesota Association of Secondary School Principals has high school principal focus, right? They're defined by the jobs and the duties that they do. MREA actually has membership across all groups. So it's staff, it's administration, it's school board, all together. And that's an important piece to this, because we know that when we're looking at issues and problems, if we connect all those views, the solutions we find typically work better because they involve all the stakeholders and the views. Also, knowing that we are the exclusive group advocating for Greater Minnesota, all the other groups include folks from both Metro and Greater Minnesota. So that's that's a unique piece of MREA, and we'll show that a little bit later on a map. Our mission really exists to champion equitable access to high quality educational opportunities for rural students. And what that means is when we look at what MREA delivers, it's all about our advocacy work, making sure that our voice is heard. We are the voice for rural Minnesota education, communication, making sure that we're sharing information with rural leaders across Minnesota, collaboration when we're working with the other ed organizations, as well as business and industry partners, and then highlighting and elevating the people that do the work of public education in Greater Minnesota. And we all know that we have just fantastic staff that show up every day and just take care of kids. And that's what's really important. So that's the kind of an overview of our mission and where we're at. And from there, I'll just talk a little bit about staying connected. So when we talk about MREA and you look at this map of Minnesota, all the red districts are MREA districts. And so you can see, hopefully, and I should maybe zoom in a little bit with that. That show a little better. But you can really see that in terms of the Twin Cities metro area and the suburban ring there, for the most part, MREA represents Greater Minnesota. And that's why when Pelsby, for example, has a question about teacher licensure, I've gotten a call from Pelsby and they say, Darren, we want to hear what does rural Minnesota think about this? How's this going to impact Greater Minnesota education? And that's why it's really important to make sure that our voice is there and that it's heard. And who can subscribe to our communications? It literally includes staff, administrators, school board members, a variety of people. We're really known for good communication across what's happening in the educational state. MREA is also part of a national organization, so we know that what the legislature does impacts us, and it can be frustrating at times for sure, but we also know that the national legislature, that also impacts what we do as a state and what happens in our local school districts. And so MREA is part of the National Rural Education Association, and again, so what we do in our work is advocacy, collaboration, communication, and celebration. And I'm really happy to talk about the National Rural Teacher of the Year. So we select a Minnesota Rural Teacher of the Year from each of the 4 zones in Minnesota, and then we choose one of those 4 to advance to the national competition. So last year's National Rural Teacher of the Year was Jenny Maris, business teacher from Morris, fantastic, full of energy, she's phenomenal. Now this year, we also won National Rural Teacher of the Year. So Minnesota's back-to-back national champions, and we know that doesn't happen very often for us in Minnesota. So it's phenomenal. But it really is about telling the story and uplifting the folks that are doing such great work. And so I'm really proud of that, and we celebrate that. Our Rural Teacher of the Year for this year was actually just on KSTP this past week here. So it's really amazing. It's a fun thing to be able to do. So let's talk a little bit about the summit. So the Greater Education Summit is MREA's professional development conference. And again, this is a conference that has specific breakout sections that are for school board members, administrators, principals, staff, faculty members, and it's really a professional group that gets together every year in November. And we have a summit that focuses just on rural education issues and how do we do those things. Our Sunday evening starts off with a celebration with our Educators of Excellence Awards. And then Monday and Tuesday, we have keynote speakers. And so this year we have the Aspen Institute as a keynote speaker. And there's going to be a session as an example specific to what it means to be a principal in rural communities. And so it's those types of things that really are wonderful additions that people are trying to look at growing professionally. And the other part of that is then our legislative platform is presented at the summit, and everyone gets to take a look at that after we do our fall member meetings. So that's an important piece as well. So part of the offer that I shared with you as Cannon Falls Group is that the membership would be 50% discount for this first year, and then there would be free registrations to the summit. And I would really encourage you to bring a team of 3, right? We know that momentum grows when we've got a group of people working on the same thing. And so I would really encourage you as board members to consider joining and consider coming to the summit. It's a fantastic event. With that, there's legislative accomplishments, and obviously we really know that the session from 2023 has been a driving factor, and we know that what happened last year also will be there because the legislature is going to have to figure out how do we pay for these things knowing that a budget year is coming up. And so that's a lot of what we do in terms of our accomplishments, is just being able to make sure that what is decided at the legislature hears from our rural voice and what it means for our districts in greater Minnesota. So with that, I'll talk just about a couple of specific things on the legislative platform as we go along. I'm going to advance 2 specific examples. The advancing roof repair and replacement as part of long-term facilities maintenance, LTFM. We've actually held 3 roundtable sessions this summer, working with Representative Vernick, legislature, and MDE staff. And it's really been good for us to do our advocacy work outside of the legislative session. And I think that's one of the things that really is a strength for MREA, is making sure that we include our member districts in these roundtable discussions so that folks have an idea of what our needs are and the ability that we feel in terms of budget stress of how we take care of our buildings, knowing that our community has made an investment in these and we really are trying to take care of those and be good stewards of public dollars. So with that, another example is advancing seasonal tax base replacement aid. Again, just another way of trying to represent the voice of our rural districts. So I won't belabor any of those other points, but I just wanted to share some of those with you and let you see some of the types of communication that we share so that folks know what our key actions are that we need and what some of the key issues are that we bring forward when the legislative session is happening. With that, our MREA board of directors, you will see, are made up of higher education, administrators, school board members, and directors that are also include teachers. So I just wanted to share that with you. From Southeast Minnesota, you'll see Jake Thompson from Plainview Elgin Millville as a school board member. You'll also see Nels Onstad as the superintendent from Wabasha Kellogg. And you will see Matt Schultz as superintendent from Lanesboro, Minnesota. So we have a good, strong connection there. And I think it's a good way to stay connected that way. So knowing that you have a lot on your agenda and you have homecoming as well, I'll maybe stop there and just ask if you have other questions or things that I can help you with.
Do you guys have any questions initially? MREA is an advocacy group at the legislative session, or at the legislature, for schools. Currently, we are members of C.
When you say advocacy, is that just a nice name for a lobbyist on our behalf?
Yes.
Same thing?
Yes.
And so their job is essentially to promote rural education.
Yes. Well, in this case, education in general, but I think more specifically, as Darren had said, they are seen as the voice of rural Minnesota for education.
Do you have a background in previous employment with this group?
Do I?
Yes,
No. I've used them.
that's what I mean.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I have a work for them.
Right.
I've had them in Southland and Leroy Ostrander, and then also, I believe in Medford as well. We've used them. So.
When you've signed on with them before, is there like meetings that you participate in regularly to kind of stay up to date on things, or?
Yeah, there's opportunities
Yeah.
that we have. Hey, Darren, are you guys still involved with, I don't know what the proper term was, like local regional meetings with people? Hang on, I'll unmute here if you want to speak.
Yes, absolutely. So what we do is we do a series of fall member meetings. There's another one coming up here in October on the 2nd. And then when we go through those series of fall member meetings, they're mostly about what are the highest priorities, right? Like where are the pain points that are out there right now, the pressure points that we need to work on when the legislative session happens. And then we use those to gather data and gather stories so that when the discussions come up with legislative folks, you know, even outside the session as well as during the session, I think that's a key piece, is that we work on our advocacy all year long. As an example of that, I will just share a quick example. Pelsby called and had a question about science licensure and wanted to know how that would work. And so I met with Pelsby and we talked about science licensure and how difficult it is to find the teaching staff that we need in our rural areas. And the reality of having 7 different science licenses really makes it difficult because we have a hard time finding teachers, let alone one that has a specific chemistry, a specific physical science, so forth. And so that's part of the deal, is just being able to have that voice and share that we need some flexibility from them. We need to be able to make sure that they understand what it means for our rural schools. So MASA, which is the Minnesota Association of School Administrators, and MRA, we met together with Pelsby and talked about that. So that's a part of what goes on. How we do our communication is that we send out what's called an insider brief. Outside of the session, it goes every other week, right? So every 2 weeks, there's an update, and it's about 100 to 200 words on 4 or 5 articles, and then there's a learn more button, and then you can click and see a larger description or a more in-depth article on that particular topic. And then when the legislative session is going on, we send an insider brief out every week, so there's an update legislatively each week. And then we also do an online meeting each week where we present Sam Walseth, who is our lobbyist at MREA, and then myself as the executive director. We share what's going on in the legislative session, and then we also, at the end, we just allow all the members to ask questions, to share concerns, whatever it might be, so that we make sure that we're staying in touch. So those are some of the things that we do in terms of communications and making sure that folks are connected.
I would go on to add too, when I was in Southland at my previous district, that I was asked to come in by the then executive director. Since I was a superintendent in a school district with less than 500 kids, he wanted to get our opinion on small school funding. And so that was nice to be identified and then pulled in as somebody that could share our concerns and what we can do to help improve that moving forward.
For sure.
So Jeff, you say we're a part of C right now. What does that mean? Does that mean their contact is you and you work with them? Or?
So we work, C is our current lobbying organization,
Yep.
To use that term. I would say the rest of the schools on that map that aren't red are C organization schools, or they're not belonging to anybody.
Okay.
More than likely C, though. And so we have them. Is that a July 1 to June 30th or January 1 to December 30th membership? I can't remember.
July.
So it is July. And so the thinking here from my standpoint is if we get a 50% discount on this organization, I would encourage the board to at least take a look at it for the rest of this year, maybe even attend the conference. And then the board, I think we renew that membership or that membership in January every year. And if you need more time, we can certainly take more time to do that instead of the January organizational meeting. But my thought was just to bring forward information and see if the 50% discount was of any interest to you, and we would get a chance to attend that conference in November and see what it's all about. And if you want to move forward with this or you want to stay with C, that'd be up to you guys.
Does that, if we went this route, does that mean that we would no longer participate in the other membership with C?
Yeah, some districts join both,
Okay.
but that's up to you guys.
Yeah, I think I'm interested in at least looking further into this. I know we've talked a lot about how southeastern Minnesota schools have maybe not been I don't know if priority is the right word, about funding, right? And if we could get something else, another perspective or something with a different group, I think. Because I feel like I haven't got a good answer of why we're not funded like others. And I don't know if that's a C issue or me, whatever, but something different maybe sounds good at this point, especially a discounted rate and a chance to go to the conference. And I'd like to see, at least get an answer of why that is.
Do we have a rough idea of costs for membership?
Darren, I'm gonna let Darren speak to that about what was the membership, was it based on per student? In my mind, I wanna say it was $1,500 or so for the rest of the year, because normally I think it's about 3,000.
Well, so what we have is a base membership fee where every district pays an $1,100 base fee. And then the rest of that is based on student enrollment, and the cap is $2,500.
Oh.
So that's the maximum that it can be, is $2,500. Jeff, honestly, I left you with the offer sheet and I don't have it pulled up on my computer. So I think it was $1,200, but
That sounds
don't
about
hold me
right.
to that one. But I think that's what it was. I think it was $1,200. And what I did as the new executive director, I started in July, right? So I was literally just a superintendent 3 months ago. The reason that I included the 3 free summit registrations is that I think that's really a critical piece to that. There's one piece of advocacy and making sure your voice is heard at the legislature, and then there's another piece of what other service do you get with those dollars. And I think being able to come to the Greater Education Summit is a really big piece, because we have legislative pieces there, we have pieces there regarding mental health and care and programs for students. We highlight professional development pieces that are going on. We highlight unique programs that are going on in rural districts. So it's an opportunity to really be, think of it sort of like the MSBA conference, just smaller and focused strictly on small schools. And so I think that's an important piece. The other part that I would just add is that the advocacy piece there, that's where I think MREA is essentially critical to small schools. And I will tell you, I've been a member of MREA in the districts that I served as well. And it was really for that reason, because I know that having served on legislative committee and worked with MSBA and MASA, is that they represent the entire state. And when you look at C, similarly, in that there's a lot of districts around the Twin Cities area that belong to C, and then there's a little bit of a difference when you get out into greater Minnesota. And I would say, I'm not advocating or asking you to leave C. That's not my ask at all. My ask is that you look at the value of MREA and determine if that's the value for you. And I believe strongly in it. I believe that our rural roots really match with your district. Just because I know Southeast Minnesota, and I would say there's things that you would find to be extremely helpful. One of the things that we provide is an interactive map. So when we go through legislative funding and different bills that pass, we actually post an interactive map where you can click on your district and it shows you the funding differences, and it will show you if you're in the upper portion, the middle portion, the lower portion, and break those things out. So I think those are some of the things that are really valuable as an organization. I'll give you one other example quickly, is that our truth and taxation will be coming up here shortly, right? In a few months, we have to have our truth and taxation hearings. So MREA provides a PowerPoint on truth and taxation to all of our member districts, and then folks can, edit that, choose to add to it, delete slides, whatever, but it's just another resource that we do, and we work with Ellers on that to make sure that we've got really good information, and that's part of the financial support that comes in with the membership. And so I just want to highlight some of those things, because sometimes we're so busy doing our work that we don't think about what other ways we can receive assistance or get help with what we're doing.
I think we're good on this, on the presentation. We do have an action item coming up in just a bit. So we can discuss, wants, concerns from here, but we okay with closing the presentation?
Darren, thank you a lot for coming on, and hopefully you catch some more big fish up there. So,
Lucky guy.
Hey, I came in early, but I think tomorrow I'm hoping it'll be even better, right? That's the story of fishing. We always hope tomorrow will be better.
thanks again.
Thank you.
Brad.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for your work and thank you for taking care of kids.
Yeah.
Take care.
Okay, we'll deal with that on page 2 under new items. Our second presenter, National Parks Trip Presentation. Paul Seneschal is here with some students, I think, as well.
We got 30.
Paul, I would like you to stand up here next to our old flag
All right.
and present for us.
Sure thing.
And if you want to bring any of your
Yeah,
folks up.
everybody come on up. I'm actually gonna have you guys do a lot of the talking, I think, because I'll kind of get run over here. I will talk way too much.
You could move over in front of the other flag as well, just
I
so you
think
get
they'll be
want
really
to
good
get
at
you all on
keeping it
camera.
concise for us. So this is kind of a recap of our presentation, or our national park trip that we did in June this past summer, 6 days. We flew into Las Vegas, so you can go to the next slide. Yeah, so we flew into Las Vegas. It's kind of a midday flight. I think we left around like 10 a.m. 10 a.m. flight. Got into Las Vegas. Our tour guide was waiting for us down in baggage claim. We were able to grab some food at the airport, and then we headed over to the Bellagio, which is where the picture is taken. And all the other groups were there. We were the last ones to arrive. And I think we spent maybe like 2 hours at the 2 to 3 hours, and we could pop around the Bellagio. We walked around. There was like a big mall across the street. We got to really experience kind of the severity of Las Vegas heat in June, but also the just kind of the advancedness of their air conditioning system. And the mall was really cool. There was like a whole area that had like a night sky lit up. It was all like dimmed out, and it was like kind of Old West. And so it really kind of felt like you were outside. So we spent some time in Vegas, just kind of farting around the first day. Our tour guide was with us the entire tour, stayed in all the hotels with us, went out to dinner with us, rode the bus with us. We had the same coach bus, all to ourselves. It was a brand new coach, same bus driver. I know the week after he had WNBA teams that he was going to be driving around that week. You can go to the next slide. So it was a 3.5 hour flight from Minneapolis to Las Vegas, and then a 3.5 hour flight home from Phoenix to Minneapolis. We went through 3 time zones. We started out Central Time, and then we were in Mountain Time and Pacific Time, and then we came back to Mountain Time, and then back to Central Time. Total 8 students. There were 3 parents, and then I was the 1 teacher. Vegas was day 1. And then day 2, we woke up. You guys want to talk about kind of what we did at Bryce?
Introduce yourselves too.
Oh yeah.
I'm Mackenzie Medcraft.
I'm Wilbur Katie.
And I'm Rylan.
And they're all sophomores.
That was our first kind of hiking. It was kind of a long first day, me being in Vegas and seeing all the cool, fun stuff there. We did a 2.5 mile walk, or like hike around it. So down where you can kind of see like the little canyon part of it, we went down all the way down there to look at all the cool rocks. And with the heat and everything like that, we all made sure we found little fun hiding spots to climb into, which were nice and cool. But everybody kept up. It was a lot of cardio up and down the hills, but other than that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this was our highest elevation day. We were at like 10,000 feet. So it was an eye opener. I definitely felt like my age, even though I'm not that old. Yeah. But yeah, so they probably won't remember all the stuff that we learned, although they did learn it. But we learned a lot about the hoodoos and the formation of the canyon. We hiked over 1,000 feet down to that canyon. It was really, really cool. If you go to the next slide. So that's the view up, about halfway up the hike. And you can kind of tell from the tree the angle of it. And so they really got to experience kind of walking through canyons and what it's like there in the Southwest. All right, day 2, Rylan, take it.
Day 2 was basically just the coral pink sand dunes, which was pretty cool. We like surf and like surf on them. It was actually really hard at first.
Yeah.
Did you, I don't know, were you able to? Like,
I think I made it like 10 feet, and then I fell.
it was hard.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. These two, I think, were some of our best riders.
And then Malachi, which is not.
And Malachi, yeah, and I got a video of Malachi. So that's our whole group right there, with 3 parents, and then me and our 8 students. So if you go to the next slide. Oh. Okay, anyways, this video was Malachi going down.
Oh no.
I
Oh,
thought I changed
bummer.
access. Okay, hit request access real quick.
Okay.
We'll do this, real time. Bear with us.
As he's searching, what draws you to go to this? To be a part of this?
I thought it was gonna be like a lot of fun since I haven't been out that way in the States, and I thought it was like a nice experience to go to all the national parks and stuff like that. Learn stuff, go with friends, have a good time.
I will say Bryce Canyon was my favorite canyon I've ever been in. So
Yeah, it was really,
Yeah.
beautiful.
really beautiful.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
That's impressive.
yeah, he was very good at that.
Not all the way
Yeah,
back
so
up.
yeah, longer the ride, the longer the walk. And it's like, once you get to the top, it gets like this, and so you're like crawling
Yeah.
up it. And you'll see Rylan struggling. Yeah. And so we got there at maybe about 8 o'clock in the morning. We try to get at the coolest part of the day. And then, so if you go back to the presentation, go to the next slide. Yeah, there's Dylan. And so this was also day 2. So we did coral pink sand dunes early in the morning, kind of learned about this big pink sandstone layer that's a part of that region that just eroded away in this particular area and formed dunes, and they move over the course of the month. And then we drove to Zion, which was kind of on our way south. Will, you want to talk about what we did in Zion?
In Zion, we went on a hike, like a small hike down a trail next to a river. And at the end, it was like a weird horseshoe sort of thing. And it was a really pretty, like, we were in like a valley canyon sort of place. And it was really pretty. And we went in the water a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. So we chose like the easiest hike to do. So what was it called? The Narrows were all closed, and I forget what the other hike was closed, but it was like a really very involved hike. And so we went to go do the Narrows and discovered that it paralleled this stream the whole way. And we stopped on our way back and just like took our shoes off. And it was kind of a really nice way to end it. Zion was much cooler than I think a lot of the other places we went to. Zion was very cool. Yeah. So you can see how tired we were on our drive back. Yeah. There was a lot of sleeping on the bus. Glen Canyon and Horseshoe Bend, that's the Colorado River. And that was our 4th day. And this was our rafting trip. I didn't get any pictures or videos from the trip. I left my phone because I just was like, I'm not gonna tempt fate on that. So I didn't get any pictures of it. We had a gorgeous day until we got on the water, and then it like started to get cloudy, and then torrential downpour, hail. It was craziness. So, and then it like all cleared up right after. So that was day 4. It was kind of it was a big driving day, and we stopped at like a lot of overlooks. We saw this massive dam that formed Lake Powell. Yeah, and then headed back. And then day 5 was Grand Canyon. And it's just a video of the Grand Canyon, so it's not super important, but we spent quite a bit of time at the Grand Canyon. It's a huge area that you can walk around to, and there's different viewpoints. Visitor center that we went to, we did a big IMAX movie just kind of on the first people to navigate the Colorado River through the Grand Canyon and map the river, etc. Our last day, we woke up, checked out of our hotel, went and hung out in Sedona, which felt very touristy. It was beautiful. Those are pictures from Sedona. It was our whole group. So there were 4 groups. There was one from Washington, one from kind of the greater Pittsburgh area, and then there was a group of Girl Scouts from Ohio, I think. Yeah. So those were our groups. We all shared the bus. You can go to the next one. Oh, no, I think that's it. Yeah, so I forgot to mention the day previous, so day 5 after the Grand Canyon, we went to the Lowell Observatory at like 9 p.m. It was like once it started to get dark, and saw like the telescope. They were getting the telescope ready that they discovered Pluto with. We got to see like a big presentation about kind of the history of Lowell and his discovery of Pluto. They have about half a dozen live telescopes with astronomers there and these big monitor screens showing the live photos of, they were looking at like nebula, they were looking at little satellite galaxies that orbit around our Milky Way galaxy. It was super cool. And then we got into our hotel at about 10. So this trip, it really, I think, showed the kids what like an intense trip can be, kind of what travel is like. Sometimes like checking into a hotel at 10 p.m. and like throwing your stuff on the bed and just dying after a day and then getting up early the next morning to go see more cool stuff. But yeah, I think that I got a ton out of it. It was a huge travel experience for me. I'm sure the kids got a bunch more than I did out of it. Really unique experience. We had a great tour guide who was super flexible. It was really kind of like whatever you guys want to do. If you don't want to stop here, that's cool. If we want to stop at this place on the side of the road, let's do it. Yeah, so it went really, really well. We had no hiccups, no delays with flights. We missed that whole software debacle late in the summer, thank God. Yeah, so that's the presentation on that. We'll keep talking about that. But what I'm here to talk about too is a trip for not this coming summer, but the summer after. So for this current group of 8th graders, it would be after their freshman year. I had a printout of the trip, and it's in a folder at my house. But I will get that to you guys. I can send it to Jeff. We can forward it to you all. But it would be to Puerto Rico. It's the same style trip. They call them their adventure trips. And it kind of mixes geology, biology, and then the history of the area. It would be a 5-day trip. And we would fly into Puerto Rico and then spend those 5 days. I think there's only 2 spots that we'd get hotels. But it's the same price, essentially, as this trip. I tried to figure out a way. We kind of worked it where we shortened it a day. And we were able to match the price of what this was, which seems, at least in my opinion, reasonable for families so far as the interest that we've gotten.
How many students do you have coming up this coming summer?
We have 26 currently.
Oh,
that are coming
going on that trip?
Yep.
So you went from 8 to 26
in
in
a year.
Is there like a limit on like how, no? Awesome.
Yeah. So, yeah, we'll be a full plane on the way down. It should be pretty cool, this trip. It's a big group of kids.
Why didn't you pick that?
Yeah. I didn't know the price, and I wanted to do
But you're 26 kids all the way to there?
No, 26 kids are going to, we're doing national parks this summer.
Sebastian needs to go on that trip.
Yeah. You can go.
Yeah, I'll be considered.
I'll be a chef.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah, you bet.
It's a great experience for everyone.
Yeah.
Super cool thing for kids to do.
It's
like,
worth it.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming, gang. All right. Any other questions for them?
Nope.
All right.
Thank you,
Appreciate
guys.
your time. Reports and communication, we have no student rep, school board committee reports. Anybody have anything for the cause?
Do you wanna?
We had the.
Oh, yeah, either one.
You go ahead.
Okay. The Ed Foundation had their poker social last weekend, and the turnout was bigger than last year. So it was awesome. A lot of people definitely noticed that it was a lot more. It felt smaller, but it was only because everybody was so much more organized, and just on top of everything, it was just smooth, and everybody had a good time. So it was good.
And raise money.
Correct. Yes. I haven't heard those numbers quite yet, but with a bigger turnout, it should be good. So.
That's all I got.
That's all we got. Nobody else?
We had our marketing committee meeting too. That only happens every so often for that particular meeting. But it talks about utilizing like our social media and utilizing like the almost like the web that gets thrown out and draws people in. So whenever they come in to our area, to our community, to our sporting events, to our school, and we pop up onto their cell phone and everything like that. So how many clicks we bring in, which then potentially turns into tours, which then potentially turns into new students. So it's this whole big cycle. And so we chatted with those guys, and like our click ratio, so how often the Cannon Falls schools gets clicked on, is up 23%, which is awesome. So that's just more traffic to our website than last year. And they're currently working on a few different videos to really kind of, I don't know, up our appeal, right? Like, what do we have? What do we have to offer? Why are we different than somebody else? And why should you come here to us? So not just the school, but also to just the town in general, Cannon Falls in general too. So it's super awesome to hear.
Yeah, we work collaboratively with the EDA and the Chamber, creating another marketing video that will be streaming out on Huddle, and hopefully potentially some commercials coming up during activity events. So
That's very good. I'm overwhelmed by the marketing of the school. It used to be.
some days I am too.
It's impressive like what it's capable of. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Committee reports are finished. Administrative board reports. I think we have information on each one of our administrators here. Jen, anything to add?
I do not have anything to add. It feels like it's been a while since I wrote that board report, but I do not believe I have anything to add.
Okay. Tim, you've got middle school, high school, and tech. Anything?
I think it's all in there.
It's all in there? Okay. Community ed activities. Again, I didn't see Reed's in here.
It's on
There it is, yep. So please refer to these for any information that you want to glean off there. You can certainly contact the administrator to check into that if you have any more.
Can I just quickly tell Jen, the bomber conferences that you will do, they're wonderful. For my own children that are in elementary and trying to get out of summer and back into school mindset, they go to there one way and they come back completely different, ready to start the school year. So
Yeah.
thank you for doing this. I know it's tough management schedule. They have to do a night where they come in. Parents have to find daycare for those 2 days as well. But just my own kids, it was a very noticeable difference from before and after the bomber conference. So thank you for organizing those. That's a lot of work.
We really do find great value in that. Just easing parents' first time to the district and just kids, as they come back from summer, it's nice for them to just have a little one-on-one time with the teacher so they know what to expect when they come back. So thanks for that.
And just add too, I had 2 different teachers tell me that they appreciated it too, that way versus I don't know what we called it before, the more open house style. you know. And
I
they
think
liked
that-
that one-on-one and.
Yeah,
I
they
thought that
were
was
just so chaotic, and it was stressful for the teacher, stressful for the kid, and you're shouting across a room that your child has an allergy, and there's just like Kleenex boxes are flying in. So I'm just, I'm very thankful that we can do that, so.
I think the other thing to point out too, for the athletics and the community ed stuff is reminding everybody that the outdoor bathrooms behind the high school here are open and are available for use, which is exciting, so.
It is, exactly.
Mhm.
It's a whole nother
It
conversation.
is, yep.
Dave included his maintenance report in there, although brief. Big time for them always, getting ready for the upcoming school year, as it is with everyone. Soups report, Jeff, anything for you?
Just really, obviously I have the agenda items on there. This is School Board Recognition Month. MSBA moved it from February to September now, so thank you all for what you do. Each of you should have a certificate in front of you thanking you and recognizing you as well. Just a quick update on the operating levy. Information is being pushed out as we speak. We started that last week or the week before out on social media and our website. I am currently out doing in-person meetings for groups that have asked, but we also have 3 other community meetings coming up, one being this Wednesday. If you guys can make it, that would be great. to sit in the audience. We also have one at noon and then another nighttime one as well. This mailer should be coming in your mailboxes either today, tomorrow, or Wednesday, depending on the pace of the Pony Express here in town. And so all that information will be headed out. We could not send this out legally until after today. So that is why there's a delay in that, but all of you that are on social media should have been able to see some of those posts heading out and directing people to our website. So that is all I have.
Okay. Moving on, public input. You see what the information is. You got a couple minutes to speak to us about anything on the agenda for this evening. Does anybody in the audience wish to speak under public input? Yes.
I just have a question about that MREA, membership. For those newsletters and all of those resources that the MREA offers to the district, if you were a member of that group, is that information available to the public? Or is it something that would only be going to like the school board or the superintendent?
As of right now, it just goes to school board members, but if it's pertinent information, we would certainly share it out to the public. If there was a need to, if it is relevant to what people are paying, or if they have questions, we can certainly reference that and send it out to them.
Which is always what we've done with C as well. If there's anything directly for the community, we always let people know.
I know with C, we've shared our position on where we're being funded at with the schools in the bottom third of the state. That was one thing I know we have shared in the public out of that data.
Okay, anyone else wish to speak? We will close public input. Consideration to approve the finance report. Mr. Davison, you're on.
Yeah, so kind of the short and brief portion of this is the cash flow. The summer is usually a busy time for us as it's audit for us. Our auditors have been done their site visit. Jeff and I will meet with them October 8th to go through the draft. So far so good in terms of the process of the mechanics of doing the audit. In terms of where I'm at, we don't have the draft, but slightly better revenue over expenditures, not a ton. It's a $15 million budget, and I think we came out around that $100,000 to the good, which is a move in the right direction. We've talked for years about trying to move our fund balance closer to that 12 or 16 that our auditor may say we'd have. Our undesignated coming into the year was about 3.6, so at least it's a move in the right direction, not a significant one or a major one, but the right direction nonetheless. Again, not official, we'll go through the draft and we'll have hope to present the final audit for board approval at the business meeting in October, which is a little bit earlier than we have in the past, which is good to get the information as soon as we can. In terms of what's presented here, the biggest thing I guess to recognize is, as we talked today about the levy and certifying that and truth and taxation, you'll see the second half of the property taxes will start rolling in at the end of October, end of November for the district. Those estimates there, we get the actual numbers when the counties chew it up, usually 2 to 3 days before they actually release those payments to our district. But that would be the levy portion of what the school receives in funds. The bulk of what we get would be through ideas, the state funding. Those are usually listed on the 15th and the 30th of each month. Other than that, really not a lot to outstanding. Just keep in mind that this cash flow, and that includes all the funds, not just general fund, and it's different than fund balance, as we talked kind of from some finance things. But if you have any questions, I can do my best to answer whatever you might have, whether it be on this report or otherwise.
When you talk about fund balance, there's that utopia number that has long since been pushed out the door as far as we're concerned, and I don't know of any districts. Yeah,
it's tough. What they would say is to have 2 months worth of expenditures to cover that. That's why they get the 12 or 16%. To be able to keep your operations, your doors open. It is getting harder and harder for districts to do that, even though the state put out historical amounts of dollars to districts. They come with mandates and strings attached, and there are more coming along, including things like FMLA, unemployment items that we're going to have to make sure we're accounting for And it's all gonna have a drain on that fund balance, so it's better we can move forward, the better, hopefully for the district's financial well-being.
Well, better news anyway, with the improved fund balance. Any questions for Mr. Davison? If not, I would look for a motion to approve the finance report as told.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Click on the motion,
Second.
second by Luke. Other discussion? All in favor of the approval of the finance report, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Moving along. Consent agenda. Items under the consent agenda are considered routine and will be enacted under one motion. In the event a board member wants to discuss any single item, it will be removed from the consent agenda for separate action. Jeff, usually start things out with the acceptance of gifts acknowledgement.
Yes. This month we have school supplies from Merchants Banks for student school supplies. We have school supplies including 2 backpacks from Nick and Amber Martin for school supplies for the beginning of the year. Classroom snacks estimated at about $150 from Patrick and Emma Barada for classroom snacks. We have 2 backpacks from Linda Statler for student backpacks. School supplies and 4 backpacks from the United Way. We have school supplies from Karna Visaji for school supplies. We also got school supplies from Lori Pash and Wangan Church. We got $810 from the Homestead Honey Farm for Welcome Back Staff Honey. School supplies estimated at $150 from Amesbury Truth Vanessa Harstead. We have $100 from St. Ansgar's for school supplies. $300 from Family Fair for Kleenex for classrooms. $200 from Carrie Siebeneller and Paxton Frederickson for recess equipment, not Reese's Pieces, recess equipment. School supplies estimated at $100 from Sargenta from Kathy Giefer. School supplies from St. Ansgar's. $3,200 from the Cannon Falls Education Foundation for Kindness Retreat for the 5th grade from Ms. Molitor. $4,063 from the Ed Foundation for Skateboard 8th grade STEM project from Ms. Till Austin. $3,650 from the Ed Foundation for a Courage Retreat for the 7th grade, Ms. Miller. And $1,678 from the Ed Foundation for a steamroller and pillow for the elementary sensory room by Ms. Shapee. So thank you all to our donors for these incredible gifts.
It's awesome.
Bob, I'm gonna dismiss myself.
Thanks, good luck. I don't think you're gonna win, but good luck.
I know I won't.
Okay, anybody have any questions or concerns about the consent agenda? If not, I would look for a motion to approve the agenda as shown.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Brian on the motion, seconded by Joanne. Other discussion? All in favor of the acceptance of the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Under new business, consideration to approve the 24-25 MREA membership. You heard the presentation. Jeff, do you have anything to add?
No, I've been affiliated with this organization in the past. I am familiar with them. They do good work. I think it's worth at least having it in for a half membership to give you guys some good information moving forward and see what you think come January.
I think like what was discussed in the beginning, I think there's a huge discrepancy between our like metro schools versus our rural schools. And I think, like they said, I think a lot of things sometimes get pushed under the rug for rural schools. And so I think having that voice and having that outlet, I think is huge. I think that's awesome.
Can you just remind me on if we do it, what C looks like? So we'll just continue with C until that membership is up,
Until that membership's
and then decide.
Yep, so both of these will run concurrently then until June 30th, but we would probably decide in January like we normally do. If you want to up that membership, if you need more time, we can always move it to a different month.
Sure.
To do that.
And then, in your past experience, have you ever run both side by side like that, or have you typically
I
just done
haven't.
one? Okay. I'd make a motion to approve an MRE membership.
For
I'll
the
second.
24-25 school year, right? Okay. Luke on the motion, seconded by Jolynn. Other discussion? You know, we need as many resources as we possibly can have, because we just can't ask the superintendent and our other administrators to keep on top of everything that's changed legislatively in education since I've been around. So we need this more than anything else. We need it. Anything else? All in favor of the approval of the 24-25 MREA membership, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Consideration to approve an Earth Science trip to Puerto Rico with tentative dates, June 15th, 19th, 26.
Obviously, this goes back to the presentation of Mr. Seneschal. Obviously, some of the students had fun, had a blast. I would recommend that we approve this trip to Puerto Rico. I know the student increase that we had from that first trip that was here to this coming trip coming up was pretty significant, so it sounds like it's pretty popular.
Tim, how immersed are you on these trips?
I know about them. They're great experiences for kids. I mean, it's one of those things that if your family can afford to do it, these are things that you do with your family, but we have a lot of families that can't. And this provides that opportunity for our students to experience, these wonderful places in our country.
Once again, the financial
and it's a learning environment. It's not just we're going to the Grand Canyon. It's like they're going and they're actually doing education here too. So.
The finance piece always sets me off some, because there's obviously people who couldn't afford to go. What mechanism is there for people?
I don't know if Mr. Seneschal did any fundraising for his first trip or even the second round of trips or not. I'm unaware of whether he did anything like that. But generally, it's on the families to pay for what that is. And honestly, I don't even know off the top of my head what the cost was for this time around. I'm guessing it's probably between $1,000 and $2,000 for that trip. But when you think about what you get for that, that's a pretty good deal.
I know that in the past, when the people made trips to Washington, they had fundraisers and such for that. I don't want to scare any kids off that would like to go to this but can't afford to go to this. So hopefully there's something in place for them to at least offer an opportunity.
Yeah.
So, any other questions, statements?
I'm pretty sure I know, but it's fully funded by the individual. The school does not.
Correct. Yeah, in fact, the reason that he can bring a bigger group is because they get more chaperones to come along with. So I'm not sure exactly what the student to staff or student to adult ratio is, but most of those companies have a kind of, this is what you need to have. You need to have this many adults going for this many students. So, but this one was pretty popular. I think, there were 4 adults and 8 kids, so that's pretty good. That's a pretty good ratio.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it'll be like that this next round.
Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Luke on the motion.
I'll second.
Seconded by Brian. Further discussion. All in favor of the approval of the Earth Science trip to Puerto Rico with tentative dates of June 15 to 1926, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Consideration of approval 1.0 FTE special ed teaching contract for Jade Franson.
Yes, this was a last minute resignation that we've had, and we were lucky to fill it with Jade Franson, who was with us last year on a long term, so
Oh,
Nice.
recommend approval.
motion?
I'll make a motion.
Julian on the motion,
I'll second.
seconded by Luke. Further discussion. All in favor of the approval of the teaching contract for Jade Franson, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Consideration to approve the 24 through 26 school removal quotes. As you can see, we didn't have a lot of bid numbers on this.
Yeah, we had one bid from Anderson Lawn Care, who normally does our bidding. We did have other people pick up bid sheets, but they didn't turn them back in. So this bid is for per occurrence for each snowstorm, and I believe that the snowfall has to be 2 inches or more before we call them in or they're called in. So, and we use our own equipment if it's 2 inches or less.
We've had a strong relationship with them. They've been very good for us.
Is that a relatively comparable number to other school districts? I mean, I guess it's a tough.
If you think of the surface area that we have to plow, I mean, if you think of the field house parking lot alone and all the drives, and if there's the back area here, the elementary parking lot, the elementary playground area, that's
It's a lot.
it's a lot of snow to remove. Yeah, I don't know how much it is from last year's bid. I'm sure it's an increase.
It's an increase.
Oh, it's a
It was $2,400. The bulk of what we do is the elementary and high school. We generally don't have Anderson's do the bus garage. Andy does the truck, and he kind of enjoys that sometimes. But $2,200 is the per time occurrence. Last year, pretty mild winter, and with having our own equipment, a lot of it was done in-house. We spent a little under $10,000 last year for snow removal. We've had years where it's significantly higher than that, depending on the snow. Once it gets over 2 inches, and especially if it's heavy wet stuff, that gets a lot, it's pretty taxing on our equipment. But we're in a much better spot than we were, say, 10 years ago when we didn't have the equipment. We were kind of at the mercy of, the contractor we had at the time to do snow, because we just didn't have the ability to do it ourselves at all. So it's been pretty helpful. You had mentioned earlier before we walked in, budget-wise, we do put numbers in, not specifically just for snow. It's usually combined snow and lawn removal. It's all within fees for services in the operations and maintenance department. With the milder winter last year, some of that savings was to help with some of the ground stuff, and I'll be back at that. We put a lot of effort into that to try to get that back into a spot where it's more playable as well. So sometimes we have to move back and forth. The mild winter and meant for a really rainy spring, we had a little mowing, so the mowing was a little bit higher this past summer. So it kind of balances itself out. It did a slight reduction at $2,200 per occurrence.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Julian on the motion,
A second.
seconded by Luke. Any other discussion? All in favor of the 24-26 snow removal quote going to Anderson Lawn Care, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Our next four items are procedural, actually, because of the teacher's master agreement work. We have some obligations here and for leaves, and so we'll take them one at a time and get through all of them. Consideration approval leave request in accordance with the teacher master agreement. Article 10, leaves of absence, section 7. This one is from September 20th through December 20th.
Yes, and this is for Amber Morgan, and I recommend approval.
Look for a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Brian on the motion, seconded by Jolynn. Any other discussion? All in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Consideration approval leave request in accordance with teacher master agreement, Article 10, leaves of absence, section 7, childcare leave, September 20 to November 4.
This is for David Morgan, and I recommend approval.
Motion?
I'll make motion.
Luke on the motion, seconded by whom?
I'll second.
Seconded by Jolynn. Other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Consideration to approve a leave request in accordance with the teacher's master agreement, Article 10, leaves of absence, section 7, the child care leave, October 28th to November 24th.
This is for Brody Higginson, and I recommend approval.
I'll make a motion.
Julian on the motion,
I'll second.
Brian on the second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Carried. Consideration to approve a leave request in accordance with Teachers Master Agreement, Article 10, Leave of Absence, Section 8, medical leave, October 23rd to November 7th.
This is for Cal Vanderhoof, and I recommend approval.
Look for a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion.
Julian on the motion. Second.
I'll second.
Seconded by Luke. Other discussion? All in favor of this medical leave, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Consideration to approve the 24-25 Assurance of Compliance Equity Laws.
So this is an action item that is yearly, and this is confirming that we are following all of these federal laws and all of these state laws. And they are linked in there if you read them ahead of time, correct?
I've looked at
Know them
them.
all, yes.
I looked at them.
And so, this is just assuring the state that we are in compliance with these, and I assure you that we are in compliance with these.
Haven't been called out to date, so I guess we are. Look for a motion to approve the Assurance of Compliance Equity Law.
I'll move to approve.
Luke on the approval?
I'll
On the
second.
motion.
I'll
Jolene?
second.
Okay, and seconded by Jolene. Other discussion? All in favor of the 24-25 Assurance of Compliance Equity Law statements, statutes, whatever,
Statutes, laws,
laws.
statements.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Consideration to approve the fiscal year 25 proposed levy. Josh?
Sure. So it's the time we have to have it sent off to MDE in our counties by September 30th. We would recommend at this point, since it is preliminary, that you would certify at the max. That way there can be some adjustments or fluctuations before final numbers were to come in when the final levy is approved at the December meeting, at the Truth and Taxation meeting. What you have here is a comparison of last year's levy limitation with the preliminary for 24 paid, 25 levy. It will not include the question on the operating referendum. That would be part of that adjustment that could happen from now until December. If a successful pass of that referendum would change this information, obviously. The biggest adjustments are going to be, we'll start with the debt service. We collect 105% of debt when there is an excess, or we receive more in debt than what our requirements are. There's a reduction for debt service. We have that same reduction this year, but it's not as significant as it was in the past because we need to hold back $100,000 from the CTE HVAC project. So there's still a reduction, but it's not as large as it was the prior year. So there's an increase in debt service. You see that's 7.02%. The community service is community ed, ECFE, Mechanic Kids, those types of programs in there. There's a slight increase, and it's in the Canon Kids portion of it for the help of the special need or disabled type section. So there's a little increase in the community ed service. 4.6 is the total increase in community ed. In terms of the general, and that's where most of the dollars are coming from. There's our already current referendum that's in there, the $500. If we were to be successful in passing, that would be revoked, replaced with the $1,250 that we're asking the public for. It's all based on formula. The adjusted pupil units for the district times the state funding formula. By default, there's a 2.5% increase on the state formula, so that's going to push the number up to begin with. There is an increase in pupil units slightly. That times the formula is going to increase or cause for that increase from the prior year, as well as with our actuarial study. And by law, we're able to not only levy for OPEB benefits, the retiree portion of that, the actual dollars, but there's an implicit rate subsidy we can apply for that as well. So there's a slight increase in our levy for that. In all, you'll see the increase from prior year, about $190,000 over the totality of it, 7.24% their increase. So really what we're gonna look at for the total levy increase is that circle number, the 7.07%. Like I said, that is as of today, that's all the preliminary information in. It's always recommended that we certify on max so that there is allowability for that fluctuation. Whether that's some of the information that we put in either is changed or erroneous, it can be, allows it to be corrected by the time we put in for our final levy. If we do it at a certain dollar amount, we're kind of stuck at that dollar amount. So, the recommendation would be to approve this and certify at the max. Any questions, I can certainly do my best to answer.
If we don't do it for the max, and like you say, we lock ourselves in.
Correct, yep.
And potentially not being able to levy for the operating levy if it does that. And so every year we just recommend certifying the max.
I don't know if I've ever been here when we haven't certified the max. It just gives us a little bit of wiggle room just in case.
Well, and I think that the bigger wiggle room is if there are any errors, it allows for that correction by the time we get to December and everything is trued up at the through the taxation.
Yeah, the state doesn't even have the levy done yet as of this meeting. So that's another reason to certify the max. And we will have a specific number in December.
Correct.
For you to certify.
Look for a motion to approve the proposed levy certification at its maximum.
I'll make the motion.
Jolene,
I'll second.
Brian on the second,
At the max, right?
at the max, yeah.
Yep.
Any other discussion? All in favor of certifying at the max, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Okay, our meeting is for the most part over. On the 14th, that's our upcoming meeting. As you can see, it goes hand in hand with an operating levy meeting that we'll have preliminarily, I guess. It'll probably leak into the regular scheduled meeting.
A little bit.
So, if you have any questions or you need something to be added to the agenda, please contact Jeff or Lori and check on the feasibility of adding it. Anybody else have anything for the cause?
I would just add, as we're out and about, just to encourage people to go to the informational meeting on Wednesday for the levy. I think, today's world, it's easy to hop on the internet and just say, I don't want more taxes, whatever. I think this is a shot to explain why. And whether you feel strongly one way or the other, just give us that shot to speak and get it in front of you and make your best decision based on that. So there's 3 coming up, but Wednesday would be the first one. So.
Yeah, I think it's important to point out that there are 3 available options to come to these informational meetings. So daytime and evening.
And there may be more. Who knows?
Yep, there's been a few already.
Okay. I'm ready to call for an adjournment. Who wants to make that motion?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Luke?
I will second.
And Brian will second. Bet you're gonna jump in for that, Brian. Motion and second to adjourn this meeting. Any other discussion? All in favor of adjournment, say aye. Aye. Opposed? We are finished.